Thanks, Margaret. Next slide, please. Okay, so the final case study of the 4 is the opposite direction. So we're now going from the Netherlands to Great Britain. And in this scenario, we've chosen roses for planting. And we are going to use an accompanied freight model. So there is a tractor unit and a trailer and a driver. It's going to use the UK's pre-lodgement model, and the goods will also move on transit because the Goods Vehicle Movement Service, the GVMS system that HMRC have developed, will be available from 1st of January for transit movements from the EU into GB. So we've decided to build this case study around that model. Thank you to Roel to start.
Yeah, and from what I'm seeing, we are going to the beautiful port of Immingham. So that's great. Great. I have a plant production business, or, well, I grow different kinds of plants, including roses for planting in the UK. And we've taken this particular one because roses for planting are a controlled goods, but that's important to just let you know at the front. And I have received an order from Heather, who is a buyer of a large GB do-it-yourself chain. So I'm very happy that at least my business is going smoothly, although it is January 2021. Next slide, please. So now I have to do a lot of stuff to get the goods moving, but luckily I'm prepared. So I already have taken the necessary steps for trade under the EU requirements. For instance, I have an EU or an NL EORI number. And of course, I've registered with Portbase, the port community system in the Netherlands that is used by all ferry companies and most of the short sea companies. So I've registered, which is important, and we will see why. And because I know my business, I have already checked the products, the plants for roses for planting, against the list and make an appointment with the authorities for the check of the product. So the phytosanitarian authority. And they certify and declare that it is EU compliant, because at this stage the GB requirements were not known. For that same reason, the GB requirements for plant passports have been affixed, to put it that way, for 6 months to the EU requirements on behalf of the UK reporter. And I'm not certain whether I say it in proper English, but GB requirements for 6 months, for 6 month plant passports may be affixed to the EU on behalf of the UK importer if required. So the plant passports, and those were questions we had before, is solved. I have applied for and received a phytosanitarian certificate, a PC, from the relevant competent authority, and I have sent a digital copy of that plant certificate, phytosanitary certificate, to Heather for pre-notification purposes. And at the same moment, I have contracted Frank to do the transit movement and the logistics. And just to make clear, Frank is an authorized consignor in the Netherlands and an authorized consignee in the GB for transit movements, and he provides the logistics to us, and that's for you, Heather.
Thank you, Roel. So I've received the phytosanitary certificate back from Roel, and I need to upload it now. So I need to put it on the relevant GB plant health IT system. I have to do this 4 hours before my roses arrive in the UK, because this example has Harwich as the Ro-Ro port. That's okay. But if it was a non-Ro-Ro movement at a different location, then this would have to be done the day before my roses are due to arrive. And at 3A, I'm back to you, Roel.
Yeah, And I supply the original phytosanitary certificate to Frank. Again, bear in mind, the original document has to go with the shipment, just as in the previous case. And I have the MRN of the export declaration. And I've sent it to port base, and that's necessary so the EID can be discharged. And I check port base before telling Frank that he can set off to the terminal. At the same time, Frank, who is an authorized consigner and consignee, by the way, in the UK, has started a transit movement and has made an entry in NCTS to generate the LRN, the local reference number. NCTS receives the declaration and holds all the details. And as Frank is an authorized consigner, he can generate the MRN at the same time. Frank has received a message from port base to enable the truck to leave for the port and access the terminal. And that brings us to 3E, which is headers.
Thank you. So I've sent Frank's logistics firm a copy of the phytosanitary certificate, and now I need to do something in GVMS. So Frank is asked to generate the goods movement reference from the goods vehicle movement service. Again, this is the new service for HMRC have brought in and will be available from 1st of January 2021 for transit movements inbound to GB. And this system populates with the intended vehicle and the crossing details. And at 3H, the system then says that each transit consignment in the goods movement reference is automatically validated. At 4A, back to you, Roll.
Yeah, Frank arrives at the terminal, and I have to make a change here. The transit MRN is already entered in the port-based system because the export was already discharged, and his truck is the vehicle registration number is scanned, and he is he can just check in. And at the same time, I'll take this one. Yeah. 4B is actually yours, Heather. Apologies.
Well, it's Frank's responsibility, obviously, but he must provide the GMR, the goods movement reference, at the check-in on the Dutch side. So at 4C, the UK's goods vehicle movement service captures that GMR and the vehicle registration number. The system confirms the checked-in crossing details and matches that vehicle registration number data within the system itself. And the important point here is the dotted line that Frank is unable to proceed any further from this point if the system says that the GMR is invalid.
Next slide.
So,
yeah.
We're still on the UK side in a way, but we're on the Dutch side of the border because there is no ENS data requirement because this period of time is before the 1st of July 2021, and the UK's facilitation is that the requirement to make an entry summary declaration into GB has been waived for 6 months from the 1st of January. If this example was a 1st of July 2021 onwards example, the entry would have to be made. It will be a requirement, and that would be done by the UK's new safety and security GB system. But for this example, the ferry operator has met the requirements of all the freight on board, and the manifest is sent to port base before the ferry departs. Over to you, Roll.
Yeah, and port base sends a message to Dutch customs that the ferry has departed, but and all exports on board are being discharged, but because our shipment is a transit shipment, it actually has no relevance at this stage. Next slide, please.
So this is the EU place of exits, back to me. The Goods Vehicle Movement Service does this validation process of the vehicle registration number with the goods movement reference number. And most importantly, at point 8, where the ferry operator has to send this data set, this is at the earliest point of no return. The ferry operator then uses the API service on board and sends the data set containing all of the GMRs to the Goods Vehicle Movement Service. Next box. So we're back over to me in the systems box at 9A. Because this is a transit movement, all the movement reference numbers are then disaggregated in the goods vehicle movement service by NCTS, the transit system. And those MRNs are sent to NCTS by NCTS to Border Force officials because they will initiate the Office of Transit function. They also perform risk analysis so that they can decide whether they want to perform any controls on any of the consignments. At 9B, the Goods Vehicle Movement Service sends a message to the ferry operator and also to Frank to let them know which goods are cleared. At 10A, we remember these are roses for planting. So the UK has a Plant Health and Seeds Inspectorate, the PHSI. They check the information that's been pre-notified on the IT systems, and they make a decision as to whether there are controls needed on any of these goods, and they will tell Frank. So at 10B, the goods in this example have not been selected for controls or for any inspections. So the NCTS Office of Transit function is completed, and Frank, or it could be the Office of Departure, but in this case, Frank is the authorised consignor in the Netherlands. He will be notified that the goods have arrived in Great Britain. Next box, please. So because Frank is an authorised consignee as well in Great Britain, and because his authorization is registered also at Heather's address, he can discharge the T form in NCTS, and then he must make the relevant import entry into the chief system. So to complete the case study and the end of the movement, Frank then can deliver the roses to me. He can arrange to pay the duty on deferment through his account. He can also pay his import VAT under the postponed accounting rules in the UK. And of course, he will bill me, and he will also bill Roll for his services. And then the final step, which is if the PHSI inspectors wish to look at the consignments post-arrival in the UK, within 3 days of that consignment reaching the UK, the original phytosanitary certificate has to be sent to them, to the PHSI. And if they wish to look at the consignments, they can do this at Heather's premises during this window of time. And that's important to note. But Heather can start to distribute the plants, the roses, immediately. And I think that concludes the case study role. Thank you. Margaret, to you.
Thank you both.
Don't mention it, and I hope you enjoy the plants.
I do.
We want pictures of these plants growing, Heather. The first question we've had is, why transit? Why did you use transit for this case study? Was it to demonstrate transit, or do you think particularly that transit should be used to move goods from the Netherlands to GB?
It's not an obligation, but it's a possibility.
And we also wanted to describe the goods vehicle movement service from the UK sides of the procedures, because we know that GVMS will be available for transit from the 1st of January. So we thought it was a good idea to explain how the GVMS service works. But Roll is right; it's a commercial decision which mode of transport you wish to use.
Great.
Let's put it that way. Generally, transit is used because you don't want to have any hassle at the border, but you want to do all the customs formalities inland. That's where normally transit is used for.
Thank you both. And Heather, that leads me on to whether or not Dutch hauliers will need a GB EORI number to interact with the GVMS system in Great Britain. Could they use the importer's EORI number? My understanding is that they need their own. Is that correct?
They do. Yes. Sorry, I'm just listening. Yes, they do need their own.
Yes, Grant. Thank you. Not a lot of questions about the case study in particular. I think it's probably because it's. I'm hoping.
Can we also say that haulier will need access to GVMS too, which they can get from the HMRC web pages? Again, put this in the breakout session, because HMRC they either have or they're about to clarify how you can access GVMS, whether it's via a user interface or whether you have to purchase the sort of API routes that we talked about in the case studies. So it's really important that HMRC confirm where businesses particularly those based in the EU, and particular for hauliers based in the EU, where they can find that information if they wish to use GVMS for transit inbound to GB from 1st of January 2021.
Thank you. We had a few questions on the later slides that we were going to cover if it was quiet here, but I think we've covered a lot of them already. There was a question about the pre-notification of plants, but of course we've got our session with our colleagues from the Department of Environment and Food and Rural Affairs later, who can tell us everything we need to know. One of the other questions we get a lot of is about the Kent access permits and the need for the Czech HGV is ready service for goods moving out through Kent. But is it worth, Heather, just spelling out to this audience again that it is not required to use this service if goods are coming into GB? Is that correct?
It's correct that it's an outbound from GB service, unless anybody is crazy enough to drive through Kent to exit from one of the East Coast ports, then there is no need to get a Kent access permit unless you want to access Kent and you want to leave GB via Eurotunnel or via the Port of Dover. So in these examples today, the Kent access permit is not relevant at all, but check an HGV service is it's not a mandatory service, but if any business wants to just check that they have completed all the necessary stages that Roel and I have outlined today, or that Werner and I outlined before, then it is a very useful checklist to understand that you've done everything that you need to do to be ready at the GB border, and importantly to be ready to be on your way when you arrive in the Port of Rotterdam or the Hook of Holland or any of the other ports that we've talked about today. Because again, it's no documents, no transport, right information in the right format, and follow the formalities that are clearly explained on either the ferry operators' web pages or Roel has already mentioned Get Ready for Brexit, and the Dutch guidance is also equally, government's guidance is equally very good. The information is there, and of course we are here to help as well, so we're happy to follow up with questions if people want to contact us. But the main message is about being prepared and doing the relevant steps to get the truck or the trailer through the border efficiently as possible from the 1st of January.
Thank you. We have an interesting question, one I haven't seen before, but there's Haulier has asked and pointed out that they often get requests to provide the name of the vessel when crossing on the North Sea. Is this mandatory? Roel, can you help us with this one?
No, I don't think it's mandatory. And if you want to have the name, you should contact your ferry operator, I guess.
Grand, thank you. There's also a question about IT systems and what would be the fallback procedure if systems some of the systems will be taken out of circulation, I suppose, over midnight as changes are made. And what happens if they don't come back up again? What is the fallback system in the Netherlands and GB?
Just to make clear, we don't have any downtime around midnight, January 1st. So our systems are up and running. And we have the normal fallback procedures in place, which we will notify via the Dutch National Help Desk for IT. So anyone who is a service provider or software provider in the Netherlands has that link, and all others who are interested in it's called the National Help Desk Douane. NHD, so almost NHS, but NHD .nl, and they will send out the information if a system is not up and running, and make clear at what stage the emergency procedures kick in. So it's not that if a system is down for a few seconds that the emergency procedures are being used right away. But there is an emergency procedure, and the NHD will inform all relevant traders and trader stakeholders on what to do.
Thank you.
Maybe good to say, in the Netherlands, and I think the same goes for sorry, Heather. please.
No, I was just going to say, Margaret, we got confirmation from HMRC as well that they anticipate the downtime to change the status of the UK from being a member state to being a third country. It's planned to take place at 2300 UK time on the 31st of December, and they estimate it will be 1 hour of downtime, I think is what the last, but you spoke to them 2 days ago. Is there any change in position?
Yes. Not that I'm aware of, but we can double check that with them in the breakout session, can't we? But yes, that's their expectation, that there will be downtime in the UK. The CMRs will be sufficient for goods moving over those midnights, and the system will be back up, due to be back up at 12:30 UK time. Okay, I'm keeping an eye on the chats. No specific questions for this particular case study. But
Margaret, just one thing to clarify, I guess, for a lot of people who are not doing business with customs for rest of the world goods at present. I think for both Belgian customs and Dutch customs, we're both we handle a lot of all the trade that comes into the EU, Belgian customs, Dutch customs. So we have procedures in place for the case that there is an outage. It doesn't happen that often. I mean, we have procedures in place. We know how to handle that. So we don't foresee any problems there. And I think most of the service providers are very much aware of what to do and how to. Well, don't panic and let's get things up and running again. It's not normal business to use the emergency procedures, but we have the emergency procedures and we know how to use them. We all know.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Do you want to say anything on that one? From Belgian Customs?
Yes, from Belgian Customs with us.
No, thank you, Roel. I can only reflect or mirror your statement. In Belgium, a hot swap, like in the Netherlands, is not foreseen. So there will be a slight downtime. We anticipate very little traffic at the moment of the downtime, because we have the transition methods of using the CMR. If there is a certain requirement for customs declarations, the backup procedure is fully available. And as in the Netherlands, service providers, logistics companies, and customs do know how to use the system. So no worries on that level. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you very much, all. I think that brings us to the end of our case study section. We're now going to.
Can I, Margaret, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to, while we've got the audience listening, I just wanted to say thank you, because Werner and Jeroen, just for your time today. I think it's been excellent to have you with us to co-present the case studies. I think it makes it a lot easier to see the full end-to-end supply chain with both of us in it. And I hope the audience also got a lot out of this. I'm sure if they have any questions when they have time to digest the detail, they can come back to us through whatever means they wish, and we can help them even more. But just thank you to you, both of you, for your time as well.
Don't mention it. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And I think if you're more than welcome to join us for the breakout sessions. We have 3 breakout sessions for you today. We've got one led by Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, the UK Customs Authority, and they will be talking through various customs procedures, and there will be an opportunity to ask them questions, some of which I've gathered them here for you, and we'll put them to them. We are also very pleased to be joined by our colleagues from the Department of the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, known as DEFRA, and they are operating a session on all sorts of control goods, SPS checks, plants, and they have lots of experts with them there. So please do join if that's your interest and you have questions for them. And last but by no means least, our colleagues from the Department of Border and Protocol Delivery Group will be running a session on moving goods into and out of Northern Ireland and the Northern Ireland Protocol. So 3 sessions for you to choose from. I understand the links are clearly put in the chat, so you choose the session you want to join, and we will start those in couple of moments at 11:40 UK time, 12:40 European time, and they will last for a little over about 45 minutes or so, and then we can all come back here for a final close at 12:25 or 1:25 U time for just a brief summary. So thank you very much for your questions during the case studies, and I hope you find these breakout sessions useful. Thank you.